I'm going to talk this morning about weed cotyledon identification, and this was done by myself and my compadre Marco. Early weed control is very important for a few reasons. You really need to know what herbicide, what the weed is, what the pest is, and to choose the proper herbicide. And there's not one herbicide that works on every weed. You'll get improved weed control. The earlier, the better. You can, some herbicides, like the contact herbicides, can move in a matter of 3 or 4 days from excellent control when the weed is small to no control when it's grown in 3 or 4 days. And if you let the weeds grow, once the crop comes up, you of course have the competition. Once the cotyledons develop, you can see you already have a pretty well-developed root system. So it's important the earlier that you are. Now, the cotyledon leaves, I'm just going to take a minute and tell you something I'm sure you all learned in school, was the cotyledon leaf is actually located in the seed. It emerges from the seed and it uses the stored food in the embryo. You can think of this like the Mars rover, where it lands and then it puts out those solar panels to generate energy for the rover to get moving. And that's what the cotyledon leaves do. They give that plant the energy it needs to get growing. We chose 15 weeds for this project, and we're expanding all the time. I have given parts of this talk previously. I apologize if you've heard parts of it already. But we're constantly expanding, improving our photos, improving our methods of identifying the cotyledons. And so this is a work in progress. The problem is, as you know, many of them at the cotyledon stage look very, very similar. So we're focusing on trying to help you identify, make the distinctions between them. I'm going to talk just about broadleaf weeds this morning, which have 2 cotyledon leaves. We are also working on grasses, which only have 1 cotyledon leaf, which makes a difficult situation even more difficult. But we're working on grasses as well. This project, I want to emphasize what we did was we took pictures. We used a digital microscope with a camera in it to take pictures in the field. So we're dealing with very, very small weeds. They look very, very small cotyledons. They look big in this presentation, but they're very small. You can see here, this is the camera, and this circle shows the size of the weed. They're probably less than 1/8 of an inch when we took the pictures, which is where you really need to identify them. What a lot of people do to identify cotyledons, because they all look so similar, some people rely on field history, and that's very important. They know what the history of weeds are in that field. Then things I'm going to show this morning, using leaf shape, leaf color, and leaf surface characteristics to distinguish between them. And I'm going to go through the 15 weeds now real quick. I'm going to get us back on time. Goosefoot and lamb's quarter, very similar, but you can tell the difference at the cotyledon stage in the field. You can see the goosefoot has a broader leaf. The lamb's quarter, much like it is when it's mature, has a longer, thinner leaf. So you can distinguish between those two at the cotyledon stage. Okay, London rocket, very common weed. Let me go back here. You can see it's got a kind of an oval, elongated cotyledon, and there are hairs. Some people call that ovate shape. The cotyledons don't have the hairs; they're very smooth and elongated. They're lighter green in general, smooth, no hairs, as I pointed out, and the first true leaves start to develop that serrated leaf shape, but it doesn't appear on the cotyledons. Shepherd's purse, similar weed in the same family, the mustards. Shepherd's purse is pretty distinctive in the regard that you hardly ever see cotyledons. This is very typical at an early stage with shepherd's purse. It comes up seemingly like a rosette. You can see that the size of the weeds we're taking pictures of, that you need to really, if you wait until the one down on the bottom of this picture, you're going to be too late with a lot of the herbicides. It's football shaped, blunt tip, rarely less than 4 leaves. A granulated surface, kind of a rough surface, generally lighter green with a thin skin. Common purslane, one of our worst weeds. Not that hard to identify at the cotyledon stage. It's oblong shaped. It's a thick, fleshy weed, succulent looking, reddish, smooth and waxy. Another picture. You can see if you get real close, very red, waxy, thick cuticle. Another one of purslane. Ground cherry, difficult to control weed. The way we were able to identify this one, it's got that oval shape, but they call it lanceolate. It's pubescent. It has hairs. The underside is purple. And what you can see that pig ear type that's coming out of the cotyledons. That was distinctive for us. The more of this we saw, the more we found that we could use that little pig ear to identify ground cherry. Another one. South thistle. South thistle, the cotyledons are smooth. They don't have that prickly kind of surface on them. They're darker green, oval shaped. Once you get true leaves, you get that kind of irregular shaped leaf surface with pricks on them, for lack of a better word. Shepherd's purse, or not shepherd's purse, Sahara mustard, terrible weed. It grows so quickly and is so vegetative and difficult to control. It's in the same family as broccoli, cauliflower, and the cotyledons look very similar. Kidney shaped, dark green, smooth. Pigweed, getting to be worse and worse every year. Long and narrow, red underside, prominent mid veins on the true leaf. Of course, you don't want to wait until you have the true leaf, but it's not that difficult to distinguish in the field. Malva, easy to identify in the field. That heart-shaped cotyledon is a key. It's smooth. The first true leaf is round, has that distinctive malva look to it. But by the time this picture was taken, this probably had a root system down 6 inches. So earliness, as Mark Siemens pointed out, is critical. You can go from excellent control to no control in no time, in 3 or 4 days. Sunflower, tiny little seed, not like a regular domesticated sunflower, but the cotyledon is big and oval shaped. It's large and it's smooth. Mare's tail, getting worse every year. This isn't a great slide. It's ovate, smooth, dark green. I just want to point out mare's tail on the top. Now both these, that's mare's tail and fleabane. We've always had mare's tail, but not as bad as we have it now. And it's fleabane on the bottom. These were sprayed, and you can see they're coming right through it. The problem is, as it always is, we select for weeds we can't control, and Roundup doesn't work on this. Very difficult weeds to control. I don't recall ever seeing fleabane. Mare's tail's been around forever, but fleabane, in the last 5 or 6 years, it has gotten worse and worse. So we're seeing a lot of fleabane here in Yuma. I know from the time I spent up in Parker that it's gotten very bad up there as well. Spiderling, I get more and more questions on this. It's in that trailing 4 o'clock family. I've seen, there used to be a grower up on the Yuma Mesa, Elliott Waits. He came in, a lot of people would just bring small weeds, and he dragged this thing into the office. It's about 7 feet long, and it grows. It spreads very quickly, difficult to control. It's the cotyledons are pretty distinctive. They're very fleshy, smooth, and round to oval. Spurge, this is spotted spurge, but you can see the cotyledons are smooth. There's no spots on them, ovate. And that's the end. I got us back on schedule. I always try and build time in from my own screw ups, and it worked this time. I want to thank you. I'm proud to be part of this group this morning. In the interest of time, I think I'll just suggest you guys contact me later, and I can answer your questions then. So we'll move on. I guess I'll turn it back over to Marco.
Thank you, Barry. That was a great presentation. The importance of early identification of weeds. Quick question, like not all seedlings, like per se, lamb's quarters and goose foot, they're not equally susceptible to the same herbicides, correct?
No, they're not. Lamb's quarter and goosefoot is a good example, Marco, as you know. Something like Pursuit will work on goosefoot, and it does not control lamb's quarters. So even though they're very similar, they're both Chenopodium, but they respond differently to different herbicides. I might point out that Marco is our best identifier, because a lot of people eat lamb's quarters. Goosefoot is nasty tasting. So Marco used his taste test out in the field, and so that's something I didn't put in here, but some have a distinctive smell or odor or taste to them, something like purple and yellow nutsedge. Purple nutsedge has a distinctive odor. Tastes different, tastes kind of almond. So if you're really having trouble, just call Marco up, and he'll do his taste test for you.
Thank you, amigo.
Thank you.